You are listening to The Hero's Journey. I'm Dan Zarzana.
And I'm Jeff Garvin.
Let the journey begin. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant day to you wherever you may be. Welcome to another episode of The Hero's Journey. Last time, Jeff was permitted to indulge his love for 90s rapscallion Christian Slater. This time, I get to highlight one of my favorite actors who personifies the 90s for me, Mr. John Cusack. I selected 3 John Cusack films, and our Patreon supporters voted on which one they wanted us to discuss. So for those of you who were aghast, bewildered, and dismayed that the poll did not include one of Cusack's most famous roles, Say Anything, that's because we already covered that film way back in July of 2019 when COVID was not even a part of the global vocabulary.
Oh my God.
Best of times, Jeff.
Wow.
We just didn't know it then.
Dan, do you know...
You sounded a little Chrisopher Walken-y there when you said, Dan.
It's because there's no impressions to be made during this episode, so I'm like...
What are you talking about?
Sad. It's pure snow!
This is pure snow!
This, what we're about to record, Dan, is our 60th episode of The Hero's Journey. 5 years.
This is our 5-year, yeah.
A couple days ago, as of this recording, was the day we sat down to record our first episode of The Hero's Journey. I'm making it sound like I'm the one who remembered, but Dan is the one who sent me a text with just the photo of our very first sort of homespun Studio Z. It's like we're sitting at Dan's breakfast nook table, and there's a he has a painting, and he had thrown this tartan wool blanket, which you will have seen in his Braveheart cover photo.
Oh, heck yeah.
Hanging over the thing to reduce reflections, and we have these like little panels of anechoic foam leaned up against our Dungeon Master screens, okay, from D&D.
All of which are now pinned on the wall behind you.
Yes, you can see them pinned on the wall behind me. And I would show up at Dan's house with a mic stand and a giant Tupperware bin from Costco of recording equipment.
Yep.
Every first Sunday of the month or whatever, I would come up and we'd set up the studio. That was 5 years ago, Dan.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
We have Google Photos to thank for that, because that morning I woke up and I had a little alert from them, and they were like, 5 years ago today. And I looked at the photo, and it's that picture of the table with that fuzzy blanket that I'd thrown over the top of it to deaden sound bouncing. And it was just like, oh my God.
Dan, I just want to say thank you for being my creative and business partner for 5 years. And to the listeners, patrons and non-patron listeners, thank you for being on this adventure with us.
Absolutely. There would be no point to do it without the listeners.
Yeah, I think we had...
I mean, otherwise you and I would just get on the phone and talk about a movie for an hour and then hang up.
Well, essentially that's what it started as, and then people started subscribing, and then it became a relationship not just between you and I, but between you and I and friends and family and strangers and people who became friends from reaching out to us and interacting with us on Patreon and Twitter and Instagram and all that. Oh, the Hero's Journey family. I'm going to get weepy. Anyway...
Talk about the vote. How did that John Cusack poll break down?
Here's how the poll turned out. In third place, with only 10% of the vote, The Grifters. Second place went to Grosse Pointe Blank with 40%.
Oh, I was rooting for that one.
Yeah, so was I.
I love Grosse Pointe Blank. However,
and the winner,
I also love the winner.
With 50% of the vote, was Better Off Dead.
Better Off Dead had a limited release in August 1985, so happy 37th birthday, Better Off Dead. And it fought for screen space with a few other tiny films barely worth a mention. Films like The Goonies, Pale Rider, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, St. Elmo's Fire, Weird Science, Rambo First Blood Part 2, Silverado Real Genius, Fright Night, Cocoon, National Lampoon's European Vacation, The Return of the Living Dead, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Teen Wolf, and Back to the Freaking Future.
Dude.
all in theaters at the same time. Holy cow, no wonder the film opened at number 31 on just 13 screens. A couple of weeks later, even Gremlins and Ghostbusters showed up in theaters again to remind everyone who's boss. The week Better Off Dead actually went wide on 650 screens in October. A new crop of films had entered the fray. The Journey of Natty Gann, also starring John Cusack. So he had 2 movies in theaters simultaneously. Remo Williams' The Adventure Begins.
Remo!
Silver Bullet, and Arnold Schwarzenegger's Commando. All of these movies were in the theater simultaneously. What a summer and autumn 1985 was for cinema.
I was going to say we could do a whole podcast called Better Than Dead and have it be all about the movies that we could have done instead of from 1985. Wow.
We've been talking constantly about how this has become the 1990s movie podcast.
Yeah.
We need to rebrand it now. We need to do all the movies that came out in 1985.
Yeah.
Starting with this one.
So in the midst of all that, Better Off Dead still managed to squeeze out a worldwide box office gross of $10.2 million against its $3.5 million production budget. This movie was the directorial debut of Savage Steve Holland, a man who began his Hollywood career in 1983 as the animator on the hit game show Press Your Luck.
Dun, 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 dun. I loved that show.
I did too. No whammies.
I was obsessed.
Yeah.
No whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Stop.
He held that job animating Press Your Luck for 766 episodes.
The entire original run of that show.
Better Off Dead stars John Cusack as Lane Meyer, of course. Curtis Armstrong as Lane's eccentric best friend, Charles DeMar. Kim Darby and David Ogden Steers as Lane's mom and dad. Diane Franklin as the French exchange student Monique. Amanda Weiss as, is that how you say that? Amanda Weiss?
Weiss? Yeah, I don't know. Weiss?
Amanda Weiss as Lane's object of affection, Beth. Aaron Dozier as a ski team captain and Beth's object of affection, Roy Stalin.
Stalin. Great name.
And Dan Schneider as the awkward across-the-street neighbor, Ricky Smith.
Yeah, Dan Schneider. We need to acknowledge this just so it doesn't seem like we're ignoring it or unaware of it, but then we're going to leave it alone for the rest of the episode.
Oh boy.
So Dan Schneider went on to become a very successful, prolific producer at Nickelodeon, creating many of that network's most famous series. The New York Times once referred to Dan Schneider as the Norman Lear of children's television.
Wow.
And then in 2018, Dan Schneider and Nickelodeon parted ways amid abuse allegations, attention to which have now been renewed as of the week we are recording this, amid the release of iCarly star Jeanette McCurdy's new memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died, in which she details her experiences on the set of that show, which was created and run by Dan Schneider. So I want to acknowledge that. We're not going to dig into the allegations because that's not what this podcast is about. There's plenty of celebrity-centric and gossip podcasts available if that's the kind of content you're looking for. Back to Better Off Dead.
You mentioned the films that competed for screen space with Better Off Dead.
Yeah.
Siskel and Ebert's film review show At the Movies, episode airing October 5, 1985, featured Better Off Dead. John Cusack's other film in theaters at the same time, The Journey of Natty Gann, and the Arnold Schwarzenegger actioner Commando. Natty Gann got 2 thumbs up, and it was a split vote on Commando. Ebert liked it, Siskel didn't. Better Off Dead, big fat 2 thumbs down. Wah, wah.
What do they know? Must be nice to live your entire life without ever having your heart broken, Gene. Roger.
Let's see if we can prove them wrong. Prepare your copy of Final Exit. Clean your skis and withdraw $2 from the ATM because you're going to need that later. This is the hero's journey of Better Off Dead. Act 1 of the hero's journey. I'm trying to make this exciting. Act 1 begins with the ordinary world of common day. We see our main character in their status quo, normal life. We begin our story in the small Northern California mountain town of Greendale. It's the day of the high school ski team tryouts when we meet our hero Lane Meyer, a student, and ski team hopeful who is pathologically obsessed with his girlfriend Beth. The walls of his room are plastered with photos of her. He sleeps with her framed picture. He keeps all of his clothes on hangers bearing cardboard cutouts of her face. So distracted is he by her photo, which he carries into the bathroom with him, that he steps into the shower still wearing his socks. Along with the sort of silly animated title sequence, this series of details informs us that we are in for a very silly film. It is over the top bizarre.
Yeah.
And it's the slapstick elements and the one-liners that make this movie memorable to me, not the story. One of my favorite things that I'd totally forgotten, and not having watched this movie in probably 20 years, is when the dad's pulling the cereal boxes out of the cabinet one by one. And of course, the son has cut the barcodes and the coupons out of the... It just keeps every box after box. He pulls off the shelves and it spills. Such a great sequence.
Because Lane's little brother, Badger, who doesn't have a single line in the film.
Yes.
Played by Scooter Stevens. He cuts out the mail away orders from all these boxes so that he can get the special prizes and things from the box, and he orders all kinds. He reminds me of Scott, our friend Scott, actually. Hi, Scott, if you're listening. Well, remember Scott always used to order those like weird books from Loom Panics, and and he built his own computer, and like he's kind of like Badger, he was like super smart kid.
Yeah, Scott was part of the...
I don't know that Scott ever cut Cheerios boxes apart.
The early
send away for...
back of the comic books, early what would have become the dark web of Scott buying how to build rockets and blow stuff up. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
The other thing is that did they not, those boxes come with like, back then would be like a waxed bag inside the box. It's not like the cereal just sat in the box. But again,
it's the comedy.
Another element of his ordinary world, Lane owns a mystery car, which, as his dad says, is darkening their domain under a moldy tarp at the bottom of the driveway. It's Chekhov's Camaro, everybody. The big pre-existing problem in Lane's world is that, unbeknownst to him, his girlfriend Beth has grown tired of dating him and wants to trade up to Roy Stalin. The handsome ski team captain and the only person in town who has skied the dangerous K-12 ski slope and lived. Apparently, this mountain has literally killed everyone else who has tried. Beth even swaps out the 8x10 glossy headshots of John Cusack and Aaron Dozier before Lane picks her up. So that, as I see it, is Lane Myers' world of Common Day.
There's a couple of other elements that are peppered in there that I'll just include here.
Do it.
Lane's mother, Jenny Meyer, she cooks sentient meals.
Yes, they crawl off the plate.
She's a terrible cook. But Kim Darby plays Jenny Meyer. Kim Darby became a Hollywood star playing Maddie Ross opposite John Wayne in the original True Grit.
Whoa.
If you've seen that movie, that is Kim Darby.
Holy cow.
We also see at one point when Lane is leaving to go to ski tryouts, we see a young woman standing in a window in the house across the street. This is Monique, the French foreign exchange student who is staying with the Smiths next door. So we get their introduction too.
Mm-hmm.
And I included the street race, Lane's first street race, as part of his world of Common Day, because this is a recurring feature joke throughout the film, is this race against the guys in the orange Ford Falcon.
I had that in call, but I flagged it as Ordinary World and First Test. It is very much a multi-purpose moment in the film.
Call to Adventure, where the hero is presented with a challenge which renders them unable to continue living in the comfort of the ordinary world. This is why I didn't include the street race as part of the Call to Adventure, because this is not the first time this has happened.
Sure. Yeah.
When he pulls up next to a red light next to these two guys, they challenge him to a race. It's always happened. Ever since he got his driver's license,
I would say it's a side quest in the movie because it does have its own arc and resolution.
Absolutely. The main Call to Adventure are the events surrounding the ski team tryouts. We arrive at the mountain. There's a man at the top of the K-12 who skis down, stops in front of all of the ski team hopefuls, and he removes his hat and his goggles, and he's got this long, flowing golden hair. And this is Roy Stalin, played by Aaron Dozier.
He is the quintessential 80s teen movie villain.
Okay, listen up. Your running time has to be under 58 seconds to even be considered for the team. Your time will be gauged along with a rating of 1 to 10 on your style, which will be judged solely by me and my vast expertise of skiing technique.
He says with a permanent smile on his face. All of his teeth are showing while he's delivering this line. It is a great delivery.
I love Aaron Dozier's performance in this movie, and he didn't do anything else in his career.
This was it.
And he's so good. I was so disappointed.
Lane, it's his turn to ski. He easily beats the 58 seconds. But Roy Stalin, who has already made it known that he is interested in Beth, waits 5 seconds after Lane passes him to click the stopwatch.
He was Stalin.
So Lane doesn't make the ski team because Roy Stalin cheated. Beth, then you hear in voiceover.
Listen, Lane, I think we should talk. We've been seeing an awful lot of each other lately, and I really think it's in my best interest if I went out with someone more popular. Better looking, drives a nicer car.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give her credit for breaking it to him real.
Brutal honesty. Yeah.
She was real.
So that is what I saw as the call to adventure. Trying to make the ski team, and now you've got a relationship drama.
Yeah.
And those two things govern Lane's activities for the rest of the film.
Agreed. The only thing I added as another side quest that requires a call to adventure is Johnny the Paperboy is owed $2 by the Myers. They are in arrears for their newspaper subscription. And Johnny is, I mean, he's a sociopath. He's determined to collect by whatever means necessary, including stalking, intimidation, property destruction. He's taken out their garage window panes one by one with well-flung newspapers. I mean, this is the Paperboy video game incarnate.
4 weeks. 20 papers, that's $2 plus tip.
Gee, Johnny, I don't have a dime. Sorry.
Didn't ask for a dime. $2.
Refusal of the call. Confronted with fear of the unknown, our hero refuses to engage in the adventure. Sometimes the energy of refusal is expressed from without the hero, sometimes from within. I had flagged moments for each sub-quest and then the overarching quest. So the racing sequence, there's refusal from without, because right as the race begins with the Ree brothers, these two Asian brothers, and one of them learned English by watching The Wide World of Sports, so he speaks like Howard Cosell.
Truly a sight to behold. A man beat the once great champ, now a study in moppishness.
Right as the race begins, Lane immediately rams his parents' station wagon into the back of a truck belonging to Rocco, the owner of local fast food joint Pig Burger. The big refusal, of course, is Lane. He's so despondent that he tries to hang himself. Then there's some refusal from without, even as he realizes it's a mistake. He's like, I haven't been to New York City. I haven't been anywhere. His mom is vacuuming, opens the basement door to give herself more room to vacuum, and knocks him off the step. And then she keeps, now he's hanging off the step hanging. He's just realized he doesn't want to die. And she's banging the door against him. This was my first, this is the first thing I thought was really funny in the movie.
I never don't laugh during this movie. I've seen this movie dozens of times, and I just crack up every time.
It's so stupid, but it's so funny. So if the adventure is winning back Beth, this is him refusing to face it and just wanting an out.
Yes.
So there's more refusal from without as Charles, though he later in the film reinforces the call to adventure, tells Lane, Stalin's a hero. He's the only one who can ski the K-12. You can't win her back. And then Lane says, what if I ski the K-12? Do you think she's going to take me back? Right. So now we have a little maybe inner call to adventure. And Charles gives him this look like, not going to happen. And Lane says, now back to suicide again.
Right.
And then later, when Lane's at the top of the K-12 making his first attempt, Charles tells him, you're going to die. It's a refusal. You shouldn't even try this. Charles is full of contradictions. I think it's all that pure snow and the Jell-O that he snorts. He's not a healthy man. That's what I saw as refusal.
I've got a lot of other things peppered in here with the refusal. Dinner time, Mom reveals her new culinary creation.
I got the recipe from the Ladies' Home Journal. The mail got wet in the rain, so some of the pages ran together. But what I couldn't read, I just improvised with my own little creative ideas. You see, it's got raisins in it. You like raisins.
And then spoons out this green slop, plops it down on the plate, and as Dad is lecturing Lane again about the car, this thing crawls off of Lane's plate and scoots across the tablecloth.
Yay, props department.
So I think Dad talking about the derelict car again in the driveway, it's not a refusal of the call of any of the adventures, but it's Dad harping on Lane about this other thing that's not a part of one of the two adventures that Lane is interested in. He says, I'll get around to it. He's not interested in that car anymore, especially now that the reason he bought the car was to impress Beth and she's dumped him now. So the car is a reminder that Beth is no longer his girlfriend.
Interesting.
You obviously have thoughts about the car.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
the entire time I was saying that, you had this little twisted look on your face.
No, I think watching these 80s movies again as a dad, I'm looking at the dad less as a two-dimensional irritant obstacle like I did when I watched these movies for the first time. I actually think the dad throughout the movie provides good mentorship. Fix up that car. Start dating again. Get on with your life. Get re-engaged in life.
Oh, so this is a mentor moment for you.
Yeah, but he does it in such a grumpy dad way. Right? It comes off as complaint, but really he's a force trying to push Lane forward in his life. And of course, the repair and resurrection of the car becomes key. Him actually trying to start dating again is key to him discovering his true quest, which I would argue is finding real love.
Yes.
So I see Dad as a mentor character here, and I saw that as the primary function of that scene, other than the funny, slimy dinner sentient, as you put it, sentient Jello.
But you see, Jeff, it's got raisins in it.
You like raisins. She really committed. I wanted to see her snap, man. I wanted to see Mom snap. You can hear Tank, my dog, snapping in the background. He does not like raisins.
More refusal from my perspective, although I do agree with and like your characterization of that car discussion as a mentor moment. Because
my over-identification with the father.
And maybe because I'm not a dad, I didn't identify with him in that way. So you're providing a different perspective, and that's why there's two of us. But Lane excuses himself, goes up to bed, gets that framed picture of Beth, hugs it to him, and he says, "Beth, it was love at first sight." And then he has a flashback to the first time that they met. Wakes up in the morning, and that's where he's feeding the cat, and he's telling himself, I'll bet she's just testing me. This is just a big test. And then, so, of course, immediately I'm like, is this a test? Is this a test? Test allies and enemies. And then the doorbell rings, and he goes, that's her. But it's not her. It's Johnny the Paperboy. And that's our introduction to that. So that's why I thought that scene was a refusal of the call.
I can see that. I also just have to mention that the box coupon thing again. He's even cut the coupons out of the cat food box, and so the cat food is just spilling.
It's just all over the floor. He's so distracted that he pours cat food into a cereal bowl, and he's about to eat it when the doorbell rings.
That moment was nearly as tense as the long cigarette ash in The Shining.
In The Shining.
That's cinema.
Then Lane drives to school. And the radio plays a series of breakup songs. He keeps changing the channel, and it's like a breakup song, breakup song, breakup song. Rips the radio out of the dash, and he throws it out the window. That to me was a refusal of the call. It's all the breakup songs happening.
Good.
Then what I saw is the final refusal, math class. This is not quite a refusal of the call, but it is a refusal of, I guess, the ordinary world. This scene exemplifies just how out of place Lane Meyer is in the world of this film. This is the scene where I 100% identified with Lane Meyer. We hear the brilliant character actor Vincent Schiavelli as Mr. Ferber, the geometry teacher.
Yes.
In this amazing spewing of nonsense.
The three cardinal trapezoidal formations hereto made orientable in our diagram by connecting the various points HIGK, PEGQ, and LMNO, creating our geometric configurations, which have no properties, but with location. R equal to the described triangle CAB quintuplicated. Therefore, it is also the 5 triangles composing the aforementioned NIGH, each are equal to the triangle CAB in this geometric concept.
The class is laughing in agreement and understanding. Somehow, they understand what the heck he just said, and we look at Lane, and Lane is bewildered, as was I for every math class I ever took. I do not have a math brain. And so when everybody else, the teacher says, this was your assignment, and I would very much like to see the results, and all the class enthusiastically pulls out all of these big brain items. One of them's got this like giant suitcase with a dot matrix printer in it, and it starts printing off, and someone's got this like massive accounting ledger.
Yeah, pin feed paper full. Yeah,
you see somebody with like an accordion, a metal accordion file thing that's like full of file folders, and one of them like flops open a little bit, and you can see the paper inside. Solid text. There is more graphite on that paper than there is paper showing through. It's incredible.
Yeah,
Lane pulls out a piece of paper folded up in his pocket that he's used to dispose of some gum, pulls it apart, and it just says, do homework. And he goes, oops.
Yeah.
All of this was just showing how unfit Lane is for the world that he's in.
Yeah, well said. He is not yet worthy.
No. I'll see you all tomorrow. Just remember to memorize pages 39 to 110 for tomorrow's lesson. All right.
Supernatural aid or meeting with the mentor. The hero receives counsel on how to operate in the special world. Now, immediately following math class, as the students are filing out, Charles stops Lane. He says, I've decided to help you. I've been going to this high school for 7.5 years. I'm no dummy. I know high school girls.
Ugh. And that line is really all about justifying the casting there.
Oh, yeah, it's great. Charles DeMar has like the scraggly beard.
Which looks like he's been through things.
Which becomes important later. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so he tells Lane, why don't you start playing your saxophone again? Roy Stalin plays the guitar. Girls love that. Then he says, ski the K-12, dude. You make a gnarly run like that and girls will get sterile just looking at you. Which, that's a positive thing. I'm not so sure. Anyhow, that's what I saw as meeting with the mentor. Charles DeMar, in that moment, is the mentor. He's the one who inspires Lane forward. You are shaking your head.
No, I agree with you 100%, but I have more meetings with the mentor moments.
Let's hear them.
Following that sequence, Lane's in the cafeteria, and he's having another of his fantasy sequences. He's drawn cartoons of Beth and Stalin, only Stalin's a monster.
No, the monster eats Stalin.
Oh, that's right.
Stalin's playing the guitar.
Right, so
and the monster eats him.
Right, the monster eats him. So they're telling him he should give up on trying to win back Beth. Lane says, I can get any girl I want.
Talking to the cartoon.
Yeah.
He's arguing with the cartoon.
Arguing with the cartoon. And then he gets up and he tries to ask out Chris Cummins, who's the beautiful blonde roller skater who dates the basketball team. Not individual members, but the whole basketball team. And he flubs it and ends up getting pounded by the team. Now, you could call this refusal, you could call it a test, but I prefer to put it in the mentorship category because his imagination, by way of this drawing, is trying to tell him that getting Beth back is the wrong quest and that the real quest is to find true love. Sometimes characters mentor themselves in sequences, but I really liked this. I tried to find a purpose for most of the fantasy sequences in the movie and failed quite often, but this one I really liked as a mentor moment from Lane to himself. Other mentor moments peppered in out of order. When they're at the top of the K-12, Charles gives Lane some crappy advice on how to survive the K-12.
Go that way, really fast. If something gets in your way, turn.
And then I think I mentioned this before, even Lane's disgruntled dad is trying to insist that he date other people. The sequence that follows is not part of mentorship, but ongoing, dad is trying to get Lane to get out of his funk.
Uh-huh.
And then following his humiliating beating by the basketball team, we find Lane standing on a bridge ready to jump. And here comes mentor Charles again, who says, "Buck up, little camper. We'll beat that slope together." Charles slaps him on the back, and he falls off the bridge. Thanks, Charles. But he lands in a passing garbage truck. And this is the first part of the movie upon rewatching that made me laugh out loud. Because we pan up to these two tree trimmers who are watching the garbage truck pass with Lane sort of laying covered in trash. And the
He's
guy
got like
says,
this leaf of lettuce on his forehead.
yeah, it's just, and the one tree trimmer looks down and says, "Man, that's a real shame when folks be throwing away a perfectly good white boy like that." I will say, other than that moment, I laughed out loud. I don't know why. But yeah, anything involving race in an 80s movie,
you out.
like the Ree brothers. Well, whatever. Yes, anything involving race in these 80s movies, you kind of clench up a little bit, waiting for it to get really uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, when he's talking about the Ree brothers and he calls them those kamikaze pilots.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
It's for sure racist. Crossing the threshold. The hero must pass a barrier to enter the special world. The crossing represents the hero's commitment to taking on the adventure. The crossing here is when Lane musters his courage and starts down the K-12 for the first time. He is committing to the adventure of doing what it takes to win Beth back. And there's a line that he has that reveals to me that some part of him understands that this is really a journey about believing in himself, although I don't think he believes that himself at this moment. I think he really thinks this is about winning Beth back. He says,
"Charles, this is very important to me. I mean, really. I mean, if I don't believe in myself, I'm nothing. I'll be as bad as my neighbor, Ricky Smith, who sits around crocheting all day and snorting nasal spray. I gotta do it."
He snorts nasal spray? You know where I can score some?
Charles is totally not interested in Lane's adventure going down the K-12. He is on his knees looking at the snow, and he says, "This is pure snow. It's everywhere." And then my favorite line in the whole movie, "Have you any idea what the street value of this mountain is?" Then he snorts.
I say that all the time.
Me too. He snorts a line of snow, and then he's like, "I think I froze half of my brain. Look, I can't move my right arm." And he's waving his right arm. Such a brilliant performance. He is the best part of this movie, in my opinion. So that's where I saw Crossing of the Threshold.
That brings us to the end of Act 1 of the hero's journey of Better Off Dead. My coffee cup is empty. That is a travesty. We need to fix that. I think you and I need to wander over to the Campbell Cafe, get ourselves a cup of joe, and discuss the other quests that we have undertaken recently.
Does it ever feel like everyone's got more going than you do? Oops. Well, you might be right.
You look pretty stupid to me.
Thank you. But all you need is guts.
When you want to race, I'll take you on any day, sucker.
And you'll never doubt yourself again.
I haven't even been to New York City.
Better Off Dead.
And that's a real shame when folks be throwing away a perfectly good white boy like that.
Rated PG.
Jeffrey, welcome to the side quest at the Campbell Cafe. Since our last episode, how have you followed your bliss?
Well, after a long, dry spell of reading, I did a comfort re-listen of the first two books in the Millennium Trilogy by Stieg Larsson. That would be Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and its sequel. And I really enjoy that. Simon Vance narrates. They're in top 10 books for me. And then I just finished Super Intelligence, Path, Dangers, Strategies by Nick Bostrom. It's all about AI and how it might transform and or destroy human civilization. I enjoyed it very much. It is a book at the very edge of my intellectual capacity, so I found it very challenging to understand. But luckily, he does a fine summary. So at the beginning of the chapter, he does a very much like MLA style, here's what I'm going to tell you. And at the end, he goes, here's what I just told you. And I needed those very badly because I got lost in the weeds of some of the things he said. I loved the stuff he was talking about with AI, but overall, what I loved about the book was that I've never read much philosophy, and I was astounded at how much he accomplished just by thinking about stuff. that you can't really experiment on because it hasn't happened yet. But just going down the rabbit hole of if this happens, there's really only 3 options. And here's what could happen if this option. And just it blew my mind the way he thinks.
What inspired you to read that? It doesn't seem like the kind of book you would normally read.
Well, I heard about Nick Bostrom on the Sam Harris podcast, and then the fiction that I'm working on involves AI. And so I wanted
okay. Research.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to get inspired. Well, yeah, I wanted to get inspired. So I watched several movies, but the one I want to harp on about is a documentary called The Year Earth Changed, directed by Tom Beard and narrated by the great David Attenborough. Sir David Attenborough.
Thank you.
It is about what happened to wildlife during the COVID lockdown. And it is extraordinary to see what happened to wild animals who suddenly had so much less impingement on their habitat. There's been so much negative, horrible things that to watch this 48-minute documentary about all the great stuff that happened during lockdown was really good for my heart. So if you have Apple TV Plus, I highly recommend The Year Earth Changed because it just was such an uplifting, awesome experience. Highly recommend.
Great.
Dan, what did you read, watch, or play?
Last episode, you watched a bunch of movies.
I did. Very proud.
I could not let that go unanswered.
Damn it, Dan.
But before that, I have been listening to the brand new podcast hosted by Roger Avery and Quentin Tarantino called the Video Archives Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Video Archives was the VHS rental store that the two of them worked in before they became successful filmmakers. When that store closed, Quentin bought the stock and is in possession of all the VHS that store had.
Wow.
And has them in a room in his home.
Dude.
He and Roger are now going to watch whatever they've got and discuss those movies.
Wow.
And so I am trying to keep up with them and watch the movies that they're talking about because with the exception of one, I haven't seen any of these movies.
Wow.
So I am really expanding my cinema knowledge, but it's just really fascinating to hear these guys talk about these movies because not only are they filmmakers, they are big time movie fans. These guys are nerds, movie nerds.
Yes.
But it's just been a lot of fun. So I have watched, since we last recorded, 22 films and
holy shnikes,
and a season of a TV series. So here we go real quick. I'm just going to run down them really fast. The Lost World Jurassic Park, No Time to Die, Dark Star, Cocaine Cowboys, Cha-Cha Real Smooth, Free Guy, Jurassic Park 3, The Magnetic Monster, Untouchable, Women in Cages, Army of the Dead, Code 8, Cell, a John Cusack movie, North Sea Hijack, also known as Folks, Loki, that's the TV series I watched, The Duelists, Red Sonja, Prey, Deathstalker, Squirrel, Zone Troopers, Bellflower, and Delirium. That's a lot of movies to have watched in 3 weeks.
My God. Wow.
Episode 1 of Video Archives Podcast talked about Dark Star, which was John Carpenter's directorial debut.
Okay.
And Cocaine Cowboys, a 1979 movie about a rock band that is on the brink of stardom, but not there yet. And so to make ends meet, they smuggle drugs.
Fair.
The story behind this film is fascinating. So listen to episode 1 of the Video Archives Podcast.
Before I watch the movie or after I watch it?
Yeah, you don't know. It doesn't matter.
Oh, so I don't need to watch the movie?
You don't need to watch the movie. You don't need to watch the movie. I mean, you can. It's on YouTube. Somebody ripped it and it's on YouTube for free right now. So
that's great.
It's a fascinating story, and I don't want to tell it because Quentin tells it much better.
Sometimes when you talk about films, I feel like I've only ever watched like 3 movies and I'm completely like I will never ever dip into any significant portion of important films made. I often feel that way when I'm sitting down to try to watch a movie or to pick a movie to watch, and I'm overwhelmed by the options and
yeah, I've done that several times.
All right, well, I think it's time for us to get back on the horse here and start Act 2.
You don't want to hear about North Sea hijack? Act 2 begins with tests, allies, and enemies. Having crossed the first threshold, the hero meets allies, makes enemies, and must pass a series of tests to prove their worthiness. On the allies' side, we've got Charles DeMar, played by Curtis Armstrong. This is Lane's eccentric, older best friend, the guy who's been going to high school for 7.5 years, and he's disappointed that Greendale, he can't even get real drugs in Greendale, so he uses whipped cream. Monique Junot, the French foreign exchange student, played by Diane Franklin. That's kind of it for allies. Maybe Dad. You very adeptly identified him as a genuine mentor character.
Yeah, I had him on the list.
Mom keeps trying to kill him, if not knocking him off of his hanging pedestal, but with her cooking.
She's awful.
On the enemy's side, we've got Johnny the Paperboy, played by Demian Slade. The Ree brothers, Yuji Okamoto and Brian Imada.
Mm-hmm.
Yuji Okamoto, you Karate Kid Part 2 fans might recognize as the big baddie in that movie. Roy Stalin, played by Aaron Dozier. We've already sung his praises. Ricky Smith, played by Dan Schneider. And Mrs. Smith, his mother, played by Laura Waterbury. This was her feature film debut.
Really?
Mr. Rocco, the owner of Pig Burger.
Yes.
Played by Chuck Mitchell, who also played Porky, the proprietor of Porky's in the movie Porky's.
Pig-themed businesses for him.
Yeah.
Typecasting.
I'm going to activate your dental plan. Get
That's
out of
a great
the car.
line. That's a great line, for sure.
Shapeshifters. Beth, played by Amanda Weiss. Mr. Kerber, the geometry teacher, played by Vincent Schiavelli. That's who I saw as the main cast that we need to mention. You got anybody else?
Nope, your list is more complete than mine. I had many aha moments in there.
Badger's his little brother, but I don't see Badger as really having any kind of effect on Lane, except just that he frustrates Lane because Badger is smarter than Lane is.
Better with women. He's got picking up trashy women. Yeah.
He buys a book called How to Pick Up Trashy Women and uses it to great effect on New Year's Eve.
Yes.
All right, so the tests. Test number 1 I saw is pretty much the entirety of Christmas Day, or at least Christmas morning. Lane calls Beth to wish her a Merry Christmas, and she tells him that Roy gave her a giant teddy bear bigger than she is, as he is holding the little tiny one, like Christmas ornament-sized one that he was going to give to her.
Yup.
Mom has given everyone TV dinners for Christmas. I remembered how much you like the chocolate nut brownie in this one.
She's trying to provide them with food, and she's terrible, and she does a great thing, which is provides them with food they actually will eat.
Isn't that fantastic? And there's just a stack of them. And Dad, played by David Ogden Stiers, is dismayed.
Playing Jenga with the...
It's so amazing, the stack of TV dinners that are there.
Yeah.
Cut to across the street. It's also Christmas morning at the Smith house. And Ricky and Mrs. Smith are flanking Monique uncomfortably close on the couch. And Ricky drops a gift into Monique's lap.
That's a Christmas present. You have Christmas in France? Christmas. Yeah.
She opens it, and it is a 8x10 photograph of Ricky. And Mrs. Smith says, "You can take that wherever you go, so you can always remember your trip to the United States."
Yeah, not a wallet size, but a full 8x10
full
framed.
8x10 framed photo.
Yeah.
Christmas. Michelle and I do that to each other a lot. We'll grab each other's cheeks and go, Christmas.
That's amazing.
All of this culminating in suicide attempt number 3. Lane tries to asphyxiate himself in the garage by running the car engine. He's got a cigarette in his mouth, and from that is hanging the little tiny teddy bear that he was going to give to Beth. Then again, as he always does, he has second doubt. But as he's coming to the realization that this is not something he actually wants to do, he passes out from the fumes, hits the gear shift, throwing the car into reverse, and backs out the brand new garage door that Dad just had installed and was showing his mother.
The garage windows are like Clark with the Christmas lights in Christmas Vacation. Dad just can't win.
Test number 2, I think, involves the prelude and the date with Joanne Greenwald. Dad summons him into the dining room and tells him to sit down.
I think it would be entirely beneficial if you were to re-enter the sociological mainstream by re-engaging in the ritual act of dating members of the opposite sex.
I don't want to date other girls, Dad. I want to date Beth.
Well, I'm sorry to inform you that you are going to start dating other girls. Starting tonight.
Oh?
Tonight at 6 o'clock, you're picking up Joanne Greenwald.
Your law partner's daughter?
That's right.
So while getting ready, Lane, who has a very high opinion of himself despite everything that has happened, says, "All right, Joanne Greenwald, you horrible thing. This is your one chance to go out with a real stud. One night with me and she'll probably go blind with ecstasy, poor creature."
It's all a reflection of his self-doubt, really. I mean, his posturing about being such a stud, I think, is really just a reflection of his sense of, his inner loathing for himself and feeling like he's not worthy.
So he shows up at Joanne Greenwald's house. She gets out onto the porch and she's like, "I don't want to go out with you." And then goes through this list of, how much, had
She's
they gone
a
out,
printing calculator.
Gone out to dinner, and, this is how much this would have cost, and we would have gotten double desserts, and then this, that, and the other thing, and then she divides it in half, and so I think that comes out to about $13.67. So why don't you just give me that money, and we'll call it a night.
Brilliant.
So the test is a loss for Lane, because not even this girl that he was mocking earlier is interested in going out with him. And that's what I saw as the last test.
Well, I'm afraid we may be parting ways here, but that brings us to approach to the inmost cave. The hero reaches the edge of a dangerous place where the object of his quest is hidden. Well, this sort of gives away my ordeal and thereby my reward, but I had the whole date with Joanne as approach to the inmost cave because it's the beginning of the night that slides into the dance. And this is Lane's only attempt to make a connection outside of Beth, and it fails miserably.
I had a terrible time coming up with the approach and the ordeal.
Yeah.
Because what I have chosen as the reward, I think it is a good reward.
Okay.
But it means that what comes before it as the ordeal, I'm not real proud of. I'll just finish off with my approach, and then we'll get into ordeal. So I thought the New Year's Eve dance at the school was the beginning of the approach.
Okay.
Lane and Charles are sitting at a table together. They're bored. This is one of my favorite moments of the whole movie.
So good.
Roy comes up, being the total jack A that he is, and he says, "Well, you got my vote for cutest couple. Be sure to shave her before you kiss her goodnight." Charles DeMar laughs hysterically,
maniacally almost. Yeah.
Yes, and this deflates Roy because he was wanting to be the bully, and it backfired on him. So this has actually taught Lane. Lane actually has a look on his face while this is happening, and I interpret that look as him realizing the way to beat Roy is to confront him at his own game.
Oh, wow.
I kind of don't want to talk about this anymore because I want to hear it from your perspective as the ordeal.
Fair enough.
Because I go all the way through Lane's next attempt at the K-12.
Well, then I guess I'll peg my ordeal.
Oh, wait. The ordeal is my segment.
We have derailed the structure of this podcast.
Okay, let's do this. The ordeal. Where the hero faces the ultimate test, often risking death to overcome his worst fear, sometimes actually appearing to die. Now, Jeffrey, I'm going to pass the baton to you.
Okay.
Because the end of my approach is your ordeal. I want to hear it from your perspective, and then we can proceed. Because like I said, I'm not at all confident in my placement. So convince me.
All right, so the New Year's dance, the big social event, is where Lane should have demonstrated his reward of his love with Beth. The dance is the central social experience. And it's also the end of an old year, the beginning of a new year.
Yes.
So this event is really a turning point. It's not a very dramatic one in a lot of ways because it's played for comedy more than anything else at the beginning. But everybody, E.G. Daily as the dancing singer.
Uh-huh.
You might not recognize her, but look her up on IMDb. She's been in everything. She's written songs for everything. She's an 80s, 90s icon. Lane sees Beth dancing with Roy, and this is yet another moment of him witnessing the death of his romantic hopes.
Mm-hmm.
Then Ricky drags Monique onto the dance floor. And we get a little preview of it. Now, Ricky is an obstacle in Lane's true romantic journey because, as we find out later, it's Monique who Lane is supposed to be with. So, distraught by yet more humiliation by Stalin, Lane leaves the dance. He's essentially, at this point, surrendering, and Monique follows him out of the gym, and we have meeting with the goddess. As they're talking, sparks are flying.
Yeah. She's been admiring him from afar.
Yes. We haven't really seen him connect with her, but this is the first moment where there really is a spark of romantic life in Lane. He's connecting with her, they're laughing, and then Ricky and Mrs. Smith show up and pull them away. And then this could be rowed back, but I see it as the final sequence of the ordeal where Lane's walking home and Johnny appears and he pursues Lane through the woods, and then paper boys just emerge from the mist. We're like, are those all Johnny? Is he? Because he's kind of a supernatural thing at this point, but they're all riding up, pursuing him, wanting their $2.
Oh, I love it.
So to me, that was like the culmination of the threat of Johnny, and he barely escapes. What is it called? The magic flight. He escapes the dragon without paying his $2. So that was my take on Ordeal.
Yeah, I like the scene where when Lane has rushed to his car, to the station wagon, and he's trying to get into the car to escape the platoon of paper boys, and he turns and leans up against the car and he goes, "Keys!"
Yeah.
This is, remember when we did Halloween?
Yes.
And I called this scene out.
You're right.
As a reference to the scene in Halloween when she is trying to get into her house while being pursued by Michael Myers, and she goes, "Keys!"
I failed to make note of that moment, but I remembered it while I was watching the movie. I was like, oh, because that's one line that I'd forgotten. I don't think I understood what he was saying the first time I saw it. I just thought he was squealing.
Squealing. Here's the thing is the reward that I pegged is much later.
Okay.
But I don't really have great arguments for why I've got the dance and the first day at Pig Burger as...
Oh, wow. That's in your ordeal?
That's an approach.
Oh, geez. Wow. We're way off the mark here in terms of being in sync.
Yeah,
wow.
We are.
Well, give me your ordeal, right? I mean...
Lane's final suicide attempt. He's wrapped himself with like a bed sheet and a necktie tied around his head like a bandana. Mm-hmm. And he's about to set himself on fire. He's got this jar of primer. And as he's looking for matches, his mom finds him, grabs him and throws him at the dinner table. And the Smiths are there. Monique's there. There's a dinner party that he wasn't aware of. So here he is in this like, I'm about to commit suicide outfit.
Yeah.
Being completely humiliated in front of Monique, the girl that we all know by this time is the one he's supposed to be with, but he hasn't figured it out yet.
Right.
And mom, oh my God, Jenny Meyer.
This is the most quotable part of the movie for me.
And again, part of why this is the ordeal, because it's not just the Meyers that are being subjected to mom's cooking. Now it's the neighbors and like the whole, everyone knows. She's humiliating the family in front of everybody.
Oh God.
In honor of our special guest, I've created dinner mondieu. First, we have French fries and French dressing, and French bread. And to drink, ta-da, Peru.
Peru!
Oh, poor Mom. God. She's trying so hard.
She is trying so hard, but that is not a meal.
Ugh.
So Dad is trying to speak to Monique, and he's doing the thing that Americans do when they're talking to someone who doesn't speak English. He starts shouting at her.
Louder.
Mrs. Smith says, she doesn't speak a word of English, but we're discovering in our household, you don't need to speak English to speak the international language. Now, we know that this is a farce.
Mm-hmm.
And even Lane says, yeah, him and her, yeah, that makes sense. But he has set the primer down, and Mrs. Smith, in her complete ignorance of everything, has like poured herself a glass of it and is drinking it, thinking it's liqueur, and then lights a cigarette, and kablooey, the dining room blows up.
This poor house.
That's what I saw as like the representative death of everything, is just this explosion that destroys the dining room.
Her face, everything.
Only because the scene that happens next is reward.
Reward. The ultimate boon. Having faced his worst fear, the hero seizes the object of their quest. Unbeknownst to Lane, the object of... Oh, no, sorry. You go, and then I'll back up and go.
So for me, what is the reward? Confidence. The next morning, while driving Monique and Ricky to school, Lane is once again challenged by the Ree brothers. And Ricky warns Lane the car is not a toy. But when the light turns green, Monique stomps on Lane's foot, pushing the gas pedal to the floor. And Lane is actually winning the race when a flock of nuns, a murder of nuns, crosses the street in front of them, forcing Lane to hit the brakes, spin the wheel, spins the car out of control. They go off this construction ramp into a pond. And in the aftermath, Ricky has collapsed in the back seat. Lane thinks he's dead. He's like, oh my God, Ricky's dead. And then Monique has her head cradled in her arms on the dashboard, and he thinks she's crying. And then she leans back and she's clearly laughing.
Yeah.
This event has given Lane a new confidence that carries him through the rest of the film. That's what I saw as the reward.
Well, I agree about the confidence part, but I think it comes earlier.
Okay.
Having faced his worst fear, the death of his love life, as played out before the entire school.
Mm-hmm.
The object of his quest, unbeknownst to him at this point, is a complete love life. And here he gains Monique as an ally. She's part of his world now. Their romantic journey has begun. He has an inkling that something is going to happen with her. And he does gain a sense of renewed confidence. There's a great scene where he's looking into the mirror and he's brushing his teeth and he's clearly feeling good for the first time in a long time. And he puts a Q-tip in his ear and he puts a Q-tip in his other ear and he puts him up his nose and he gives himself fangs. It's a silly scene, but he's having a moment of happiness in the dreariness of this hard experience.
Oh, wow. I do not see it that way at all. That's him stalling. He doesn't want to go to this job. He's being ridiculous and he's making himself look hideous in an attempt to stall going to this job. And while Lane is getting ready, he's listening. Well, I don't know if he's listening to it, but we are listening to Frank Sinatra's A Man Alone.
Right. I didn't pick up on that.
I don't see that as him being happy at all. He looks absolutely miserable.
Oh, interesting. That's not how I saw it. Another reward, of course, that backfires is he gets keys to the restaurant. So though he hates the job, he gets keys to the restaurant, which play an important part later. And then this isn't part of the reward, but it's the second section of the movie that made me laugh out loud, is when they cut to Mom literally cooking Cthulhu. I mean, there are giant tentacles coming out of this thing and they're wiggling and she's just like stirring it. And
there's this claw that's like reaching up out of the pot.
I loved it. I laughed out loud. What a creative prop moment. And really, it's just getting more and more ridiculous with her cooking.
Uh-huh.
She's boiling this Cthulhu. So that's the main reward I saw there is Monique, a new love interest that's blossoming in his life.
Okay.
That's the end of Act 2. Let's take a break and get ourselves a beverage. Patrons, welcome to the Vogler Lounge. It's time for Dan and I to share a themed beverage. This is one of my favorite segments in the show because no matter how the show is going, I always find solace in a good drink. I'm going to go first because it's so hot in my house that my ice is rapidly melting and I don't want this drink to taste like water. So, Dan, when I start searching for the right themed beverage, I Google first. And usually I come up completely dry and I have to start Googling names of characters, names of actors, names of directors. But this time I Googled Better Off Dead cocktail and I struck gold.
Okay.
I found a website called Besotted Geek.
Uh-huh.
And I found a cocktail called Gin, I'm Really Sorry Your Mom Blew Up Ricky. It is a gin Ricky.
Gee, I'm real sorry your mom blew up, Ricky. Doctor said she'll be okay. I guess she just won't be able to eat any spicy foods for a while.
And
yay!
You can see the ice is really melted here. But
really? Yeah.
But a gin Ricky is generally gin and lime juice and either soda water. I've used tonic water here because that's what the recipe called for. It also called for a 151 floater to light on fire, but I didn't get that because I'm a grown adult, and so I don't put rum 51 on drinks and light them on fire.
You know, that's the second drink in a row that has asked for a 151 on fire, and you've said that you're not going to do that.
But I also have a Stratocaster stir stick to go with the rock and roll hamburger sequence. So here we go. I'm going to taste my gin, I'm Sorry Your Mom Blew Up Ricky. Oh, that's nice. Very citrusy from the lime juice. I don't taste the gin. I guess it's Hendrick's gin, which is good gin. I guess that's the sign of a good gin cocktail is that it just tastes, but it's very refreshing right now. It's so hot in this room. It's very refreshing to have a delicious, refreshing beverage. So it just tastes like a tonic and lime. I'm going to drink this fast because it's hot and delicious.
And then make yourself another one.
Maybe. Dan, over to you.
I have a classic cocktail, an old-fashioned, but it's a little bit different. Because you see, it's got raisins in it.
Oh,
what this is a rum raisin old-fashioned.
What?
Made with rum instead of whiskey.
Okay.
Normally an old-fashioned calls for, here's my other twist on it. Normally an old-fashioned calls for either a sugar cube or maybe some simple syrup. I have agave nectar. Agave being an export of Mexico. Why is this important? Because every time Roy Stalin greets Lane Meyer, he greets him in Spanish.
Buenos dias, Roy Stalin. How you doing?
Hola, Lane Meyer.
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
Why? We don't know. Does Roy Stalin think that Lane Meyer speaks Spanish or is Spanish? I don't know. I think that is a delightful quirk of that character. And so I just thought that would be funny to, instead of using simple syrup or a sugar cube, that I would use agave syrup instead.
That's awesome.
But this is actually a rum raisin old fashioned. Got the orange in there. I've got a little swizzle stick with actual golden California raisins. So let's see how this tastes. I like old fashions. Those are
me too.
Those are good cocktails.
I want one now.
Never had one made with rum though. And the agave is very sweet. So
yes.
This might be too much because the rum's going to be sweeter than a whiskey. It smells good.
Is it going to crawl out of your glass and escape?
I don't think it is. It might be a little too sweet. And I don't know if that's because maybe I use too much agave nectar. Simple syrup, you're supposed to use 2 teaspoons. And so I use 2 teaspoons of the agave nectar. Maybe I need to cut back on that or something. Then again, there's also a bunch of raisins in the bottom that I muddled in with.
You muddled raisins.
With
Very nice.
The bitters and the agave nectar, and then you take that, you muddle it at the bottom of the glass before you put the whiskey in.
Nice.
I know it's been a long time since I've had rum, so what I'm tasting might just be the rum. I don't know.
Oh, both our drinks have rum because I put a floater of Crucian rum.
Oh,
in
did
mine.
you?
Yeah.
Oh,
left
okay.
over from the Hamilton episode.
Oh my God. 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm impressed that alcohol survives in your house that long, considering you have 2 children and 2 dogs.
They don't drink much.
I might need to play with the recipe a bit.
I hear you.
I don't love it.
Well themed though.
I suppose a little disappointed. Yeah, it's well themed. That's the only reason I was really excited about it. So I guess I'll eat my raisins.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us at the Vogler Lounge.
No, Jeff, don't jump ahead. We've got
Nope.
one more business to take care of.
Oh dear.
Told you. A toast to our 2 new demigod patrons, Randy Sparks, Justin Purvis. thank you both so much for contributing, for joining us on Patreon. Welcome to the journey. And a cheers, again, toast to all patrons and all listeners, everybody who supports this show by listening and sharing with friends and laughing at our ridiculousness. So here's to 5 years and 60 episodes. Cheers to all of you, and cheers to you, Jeff.
Clink. That's going fast.
Well, you warned us. That'll make for an interesting Act 3. All right.
Yes, it will.
So with that, I think it is time to stumble back to Studio Z and whatever sweltering place you're in, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
And finish Act 3. All right. Cheers, everybody. Act 3 of the hero's journey begins with the road back. Our hero is pursued by vengeful forces they disturbed when they seized the object of their quest. Now, I am way ahead of you in terms of story.
Yes.
So I think even though this is my segment, I think we should probably roll back to you and have you catch us up.
Okay. Road back begins with Lane's first day at Pig Burger job. Of course Rocco is a vengeful force. Lane spent the first 2 acts of the movie smashing up his car. So he shows up at the job, and Rocco, the grisly cigar-chomping owner of Pig Burger, just makes his life miserable.
So you're Al Myers' kid?
Yes, I am.
You look pretty stupid to me.
And so Lane, in one of his fantasy segments, starts hallucinating Frankenstein-style bringing a burger to life. And then we cut to this claymation burger dance with the guitar. And it's funny, during the Frankenstein sequence, particularly during his fake laugh, I get the sense that Cusack was not into it. He just looks like he's faking it for the sake of the director. That was my impression watching this part.
Yeah, his fake laugh, he wasn't fully committed to that, but the look on his face when he's got the crazy eyes and the open mouth,
yes,
and he's taking the platter to the little hoist that he's going to raise up to the lightning, that look on his face, that was committed.
I agree.
But yeah, his fake laugh, there needed to be more maniacal character to that laugh. So I'm with you there.
So Rocco throws him out into the restaurant, and Roy and Beth witnesses firing, adding to his humiliation.
Here's what I didn't get. If he was fired, how does he have...
Yeah, he forgot to collect the keys. Yeah, he didn't. The boss didn't collect the keys.
Did he not get fired, or did he just kick him out for the day? Or
I think he got fired because he destroys the kitchen. When this fantasy sequence ends, we cut to the kitchen and there's mess everywhere, and the burgers are all charred. And
maybe it's a plot hole? Or
man.
Maybe Rocco decided, wait a minute, I fired this kid. I need somebody in here Saturday at 6 a.m. to mop and sweep, and I'm going to have to do it if I don't.
Well, we never see him collect the keys, so my take on it is he just throws them out. To me, Lane attempting the K-12 again, wiping out, is another vengeful force. Him trying to douse himself, his mother dragging him into the dinner and the humiliation.
Mm-hmm.
Yet another race with the Ree brothers. All of our subplots are still coming back to haunt him.
Yeah.
And then after the race, he's in the parking lot with Monique, and he's bragging about how if only he could have had the Camaro up and running. You know, the ducks are hopping out of the car. And
I love that part.
Stalin walks by him again and snorts at him like a pig. Stalin is such a D-hole.
By the way, we are now in sync. My first element of Road Back was him talking about, man, if I had the Camaro running, I could totally beat those Ree brothers.
Well, then you pick
Stalin
it up.
Comes by. So Stalin deflating Lane there in his triumphant moment was what I thought was the first element of the Road Back.
Okay, so we're back on track here. Two of us in sync.
Yeah. Bye. At lunch, Lane and Monique are sitting together. As you've said, Lane has earned Monique as an ally.
Yes.
And so the two of them are sitting together at lunch. Lane is explaining how his mom tries with the cooking, and after that dinner, even the school lunch must look good by comparison.
Yeah.
Ricky is now a force of obstacle because there's some poor kid reading a book next to Monique, and he grabs the book and chucks it across the room, so the kid gets up to go chase it, and then he sits down in that kid's seat, steals Monique's brownie. So now Ricky is trying to get in the way of this new romantic relationship.
Right.
Or at least at this point, it's maybe a friendship, but you can tell Monique is really into Lane. More so than Lane is into Monique at this point, I think.
Yes, agreed.
Get you somebody who looks at you the way Monique looks at Lane.
Yes.
And then Roy Stalin and his goons show up.
Hey, buenos dias!
He's just being a complete jerk. He's bullying Lane at the time. Like Ricky, Stalin's got one arm on Lane's shoulder and another hand on Monique's shoulder. Ricky tries to like push the hand off of Monique's shoulder, and Stalin just slaps Ricky right in the forehead. I laughed so hard when that happened this time.
Listen, Meyer, I just stopped by to tell you I'm going to be picking a new captain for the ski team on Sunday. All you got to do to be captain, Meyer, is beat me. I mean, the tryouts won't be the same if you're not there, champ.
And then he starts harassing Monique again, and Lane, exercising a bit of that confidence that he has earned, stands up and actually confronts Roy, gets face-to-face with him.
Yes.
You think you're such a big tough guy because you're captain of this ski team. The truth is I could out-ski you any day of the week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you want to race, I'll take you on any day, sucker.
Yeah, I'm sure.
From the K-12, champ. Chicken?
What did you say?
Anytime, you name it.
Oh, Meyer. You're digging your own grave.
And I love it how Lane says, nobody else has to know, just you and me. And then immediately the school PA says,
This just in. Lane Meyer will be racing Roy Stalin down K-12 this Sunday at 12 noon.
After school, Lane is lamenting his foolishness. Wow, I can't say the word foolishness.
Foolishment is way better.
After school, Lane is lamenting his foolishness at having challenged Roy Stalin at having... I can't speak. This is what a rum raisin old-fashioned does to you, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, challenging Roy Stalin down the K-12. They're standing in their driveway. Monique asks about the car that's under the tarp. Lane says that he can't get it to run, and he drives away to the ski shop. He'll see her later. And here's another element of vengeful force, warning Lane about the foolishness of what he has just done. The proprietor of the ski shop rolls up in a wheelchair, arms in casts, neck brace, and he tells Lane, I tried to ski the K-12. You got to be a real moron to try that run.
On the other hand, he's the only other person in town who has survived the K-12. Everyone else is dead.
I need people who haven't watched this movie to know that Jeff is embellishing a little bit. There's not a litter of corpses at the bottom of the mountain.
But it is said explicitly that he's the only one who has survived. That makes it clear
But who says that line?
Look,
Charles DeMar.
Look, we even see the death of someone, so you just wait.
Hyperbole.
You just wait. Yes, we do. You just wait until the rest of Act 3. Oh, you'll find out. You'll be there when I say it.
Jeez. Okay, so Lane has collected his new skis from the now wheelchair-bound proprietor of the ski shop. He gets into his car and he says,
This is as bad as we'll ever get.
Do not manifest negativity in the universe by saying this is as bad as it will ever get. Because as he's driving away, Paperboy Johnny leaps onto the roof of the car, begins pounding on the windshield with a newspaper, screaming, $2, $2. Lane is forced to drive through the city all crazy, jumping up curbs, going through the car wash. That's the one thing that saves him because you hear Johnny, no, I can't swim.
I can't swim. Great writing.
And that is what saves Lane. Road back continues, I think.
Yes, agreed.
Lane returns home to find Monique chucking citrus at a no parking sign.
Chucking Citrus, by the way, Dan, is the name of the new band that I'm forming.
And Lane goes over to check on her, and she won't respond. She's just chucking citrus. And finally, as he's about to walk away, she speaks in perfect English, albeit with an adorable French accent.
Oh, so adorable.
And tells Lane exactly what the problem is and how frustrated she is with Ricky, and he won't leave her alone. And she thought that if she pretended that she didn't speak English, that they wouldn't have any reason to be in the same room together, and he would ignore her.
Instead, he uses it as a chance to put his testicles all over me.
His what?
how you say, octopus, testicles.
No, tentacles. NT. Tentacles.
Tentacles.
There's a big difference.
She says, all I wanted to do was come to the States and see Dodger Stadium.
Which is when you fell in love with Monique, because now she's a Dodgers fan. Come on.
Cue the Montague.
In a Montague.
Cue the montage. Lane, have I told that story, why I call them Montagues?
I think now's the perfect time.
Okay, well, listeners, if you don't know that story, back in college, I interned for a production company, and one of my roles there was to do coverage on scripts. Now, what that means, if you're not familiar with that term, is that a production company is just inundated with scripts. People, writers and agents flooding the place with their scripts, trying to entice that company to buy the script and produce that film. So there's somebody at that production company who reads the script and then analyzes it, and you determine whether or not this script is a good fit for the kind of product that this production studio makes. And so that, as an intern, that was one of my roles. There was a script that I read that had half a dozen montages in it, and every time the screenwriter spelled it Montague. As in the Montagues and Capulets.
Montague.
Ever since then, it's been 25 years that I call them Montagues now.
That writer could be listening to this podcast right now.
And they're like, that's why my script didn't get bought. Some lousy intern.
Gatekeeper. Shame on you.
Okay, anyhow, Lane emerges from his home to find Monique in a greasy Dodgers cap and overalls underneath his Camaro. And he says, in a completely misogynistic way, what are you doing to my car? It's already screwed up enough as it is. And she leans into the driver's side, turns the key, and that baby roars to life.
Yes.
You fixed my car. I can't believe it.
And she says, that is why you fail.
Pretty much. She says, I cannot do it is your middle name. And they push the car into the garage, and then the Montague, set to Howard Jones' Like to Get to Know You Well, a song that is on my GTA self-radio playlist.
Really?
As the two of them finish repairing the 1967 Camaro.
I wish they'd used the Dead Milkmen bitchin' Camaro for that sequence. That would have been much better.
Here's where I begin to question the end of The Road Back. Because from this point on to what I see as the resurrection is all wins for Lane.
Yeah.
They finish fixing up the Camaro. He realizes he's got the ski race in the morning against Stalin.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm dead. I've got to go hide in a cave.
Yeah.
And she says, see, this is what I'm talking about. You're always running away from things. What you need is a taste of success. And I think you'll find it suits you.
Mm-hmm.
So they get in the Camaro. It's all polished up and gorgeous.
Yes.
To Muddy Waters' Manish Boy, another song that's on my GTA self-radio playlist.
Wow, look at your taste.
They take this car out for its maiden voyage, encounter the Ree brothers, annihilate them. The Ree brothers don't even get off the line because they're distracted because they've got ladies in the car with them, and they're just sitting at a red light eating Chinese food.
Oh, yeah, another racial moment because Asian people eat Chinese food out of Chinese takeout containers.
Is that something that they specifically do not do?
No, but it's, I mean, come on.
That completely outside the realm of possibility, Jeff? Now who's the racist? Who's the racist?
Also, I think at this point I was like, what? They couldn't afford another chase sequence? Like, it would have been rad at that point. It would have clearly been Resurrection to me if they'd had a really great final race, but they underplay it like, meh.
That is what makes what should have been a good triumphant moment a little meaningless.
Agreed.
Because the Ree brothers aren't even ready for the race. They're still trying to put their helmets on. And they all suddenly they have these ridiculous helmets that they've never had before.
Should have been a neck and neck race that he wins.
Right.
But I agree that's why I did not have it in Resurrection, because it doesn't earn that.
Correct. Yeah. Me too.
Okay, agreed.
Finally, Lane takes Monique to Pig Burgers after hours. She's blindfolded. He leads her inside, sits her down at a table that has a white tablecloth, a champagne bucket, which these guys, they're high school, so it's probably just Martinelli's sparkling cider.
And it's at Pig Burger.
And there's a red rose in a vase. And then he produces the dinner, and it's the TV dinners that he says, Mom got me these for Christmas.
So great.
But she's completely charmed by this moment.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I just want to thank you for everything. Merci buckets.
Merci buckets.
And as she is digging into the TV dinner, he says, ooh, I forgot one thing. And as we're hearing the music play, he comes in with his saxophone and he starts playing the saxophone for her.
He starts playing a terrible synth saxophone that sounds nothing like a real saxophone. I can attest to the fact in 1985, my dad worked for Roland, and they were on top of the sampled instrument game. And I can tell you that synth saxophone, took me out of the story completely in what was an otherwise very realistic film. Ugh, what a wreck.
God,
2 thumbs down.
Man, what is it like to be such a black-hearted misery?
You've spent enough time with me. You ought to know by now.
That's what I saw as the end of the road back, which is a weird place to end the road back because it ends on an up note.
See, I hear what you're saying, but prep for the final battle is also part of the road back.
Yeah, but how often have we ended the road back on this high note? Not very.
Yeah, I mean, usually it's a little more desperate than that.
Yeah, it's unusual.
I actually took the road back all the way through the ski montage because that's still part of prepping for the battle. It's not the final battle yet. So
okay.
Monique takes him on another Montague, teaching him. By the way, Monique can ski. All of a sudden, she's a pro skier who can go down the K-12, no problem.
Yeah.
And so finally, he succeeds and he's ready for the race.
No, he doesn't.
That's right. He wipes out again.
He wipes out immediately.
But it ends in an almost kiss. They're having this romantic moment as he falls on top of her. And then right as their lips are about to meet, Charles shows up. Where have you been for the last 20 pages? He shows up and says it's time for the race. And then when Lane stands up, ostensibly to make his way toward the starting line, he realizes one of his skis is broken. That brings us to resurrection. The hero faces death one more time in an ultimate showdown. This time, the danger is on the broadest scale of the entire story. The resurrection, of course, is the final ski race against Stalin. Everyone thinks Lane is going to no-show, but he arrives at the top of the run on one ski. Now, the reason he's in such a hurry isn't bravery. It's because the paper boy comes out. Johnny comes out of nowhere on a bike that has skis on it.
Yep.
He's got a ski bike.
It's amazing.
But he still has playing cards in the spokes that make that ominous playing card rattling sound. So the paperboy's chasing him, and with only a single glance back over his shoulder, he starts down the mountain on one ski, pursued by Paperboy and Roy. During the race, Roy knocks the Paperboy off a cliff, killing him. Another small town resident killed on the K-12. We see...
I can't tell if you're kidding.
We see throws of he's pretending to wake up, but that's like when you kill a bug and it twitches after death. That Paperboy is dead. Absolutely dead.
No.
So yes,
Johnny,
that's right.
You were too beautiful for this world.
Lane.
All he wanted was $2.
So sad. It's a tragedy. Lane.
It's a tragedy of the American worker.
Goes down
the hill.
All they want
is what they're owed.
That's right. This is
and
really
they
the
die
battle.
in the pursuit of it.
By the way, is that still the same rum raisin old fashioned, or did you make a second one?
It's the same one.
I finished my cocktail at the first bullet point of the road back.
Yeah, but you have a drinking problem, and I don't.
I do. Lane goes down the hill on one ski. It's a great ski chase. It really is. It's as good as the car chase should have been.
Good music.
And he wins the race. Everyone cheers.
Does he though?
He does.
Does he though?
Yes, he does. He wins the race. Then everyone's celebrating, and Beth, of course, being the shallow wind chaser that she is, walks up to him, gives him a kiss. Oh, you are the best.
Yep.
And Monique is looking on, and she turns and walks away.
She doesn't just walk away. Ricky and Mrs. Smith have abducted her.
We've been worried about you, Monique.
What are you doing up here? Do you know how long a drive it is to get here? Ricky, get his skis. Come on, we're going home.
That's right. So he has to win her back by having a ski pole duel with Ricky. It's incredible.
And the music for this ski pole fight is fantastic.
So great.
What are you doing with her?
She's coming with me.
She's coming with us.
Wrong.
You would be wise to do as Mother says, Lane Meyer.
Ricky, do something to him.
So eventually he wins, knocking Ricky over onto his mom, which is really the culmination of their sick Oedipal journey throughout the film. Thanks,
What
Savage
the
Steve. Oh, come on. Oh, so gross. I see that as the end of Resurrection.
All right, so the reason I say, did Lane win the ski race? He starts down the hill first, and then a few seconds later, Roy starts down the hill. Lane finishes just a hair ahead
They're
of Roy.
neck and neck,
so
yeah.
Roy got down the hill faster than Lane did. But Lane was on one ski, so there's that to take into account. That's why I wonder if did he win the race?
Everyone celebrates as though he's won the race.
Oh, sure, yeah. And even Roy Stalin isn't like, I won, why are you all over there? Yeah, no, he's pissed off.
Yeah.
That brings us to the final segment. Freedom to live, or return with the elixir. Having won some precious treasure or reward, the hero now returns to the ordinary world to share the spoils of battle. So, with his new confidence and his undefeated street race record in his new Camaro, Lane drives Monique to Dodger Stadium, where they break into the park, probably destroy the grass by driving the car on it, and make out on the hood of the car as it's parked on home plate. The camera pulls back, revealing a laughably tiny Los Angeles skyline. It looks nothing like that today.
Yes.
Also revealing the paperboy charging across the infield on his bicycle.
Coming back to life after having perished on the deadly K-12. So he has resurrected at the end of this film. So strong is his vengeance. Zombie paperboy.
It's not over because at home, Dad is putting the finishing touches on yet another brand new garage door as a homemade space shuttle lifts off, bursting through the garage roof, Badger Meyer beating both Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos in the privatized space race as the credits roll.
The only thing we left out is that I left Ricky and Mom in their weird Oedipal pose. But then a nerdy girl comes out of nowhere and helps Ricky up.
You know what? When I saw the James Bond film Moonraker,
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Jaws has a romance with who, and when I saw her, I was like, oh my God, like, is the girl in Better Off Dead a reference to Jaws' girlfriend in Moonraker?
Yeah.
Because they kind of look similar.
Yeah, it's great.
A little bit.
Perfect connection. Just to close this out, Dan, Bitchin' Camaro by the Dead Milkmen was released in 1984. During the production of this film, likely before the post-production, huge failure to include that in this film. Huge failure.
This was filmed in like November and December of 1984, I believe.
Yep.
Damn, they just didn't know about it yet. The song was too new.
With likely the highest body count of any film we've ever covered due to the pile of small-town corpses littering the K-12 slope in Greendale, we end this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please share the hero's journey with your friends. Like, that's the best thing you can do for us, is tell your friends you love the show, your movie-loving, book-loving friends. Also, like and subscribe, rate and review. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. If you would like to support the podcast monetarily and receive access to awesome bonus audio and video, please visit patreon.com/Heroes Journey Podcast. All patrons receive access to a bonus audio episode where we discuss trivia about the film or book we just covered. You'll hear us making reference to tidbits during the episode. That's what we're talking about. Other tiers include access to video segments and the right to vote on the subject of future episodes.
Thank you to all patrons who make this show possible, including our demigod patrons, John Peterson Jr., Scott Sanford, Ricky Garvin, Jeff Scott, Joseph Wilbur, Michelle Calderon, Ami Garvin, Salathiel Jones, Jasmine and Pete Hudson, my mom and dad, Randy Sparks, and Justin Purvis.
My jaw just dropped at the number of people you just listed on that. That's extraordinary.
Isn't that
Thank
rad?
Thank you so much.
So much, yeah.
Oh, special thanks as always to Taylor Jordan for composing the Hero's Journey theme song, and thank you to Jason Dorff for our awesome episode artwork. Links to their portfolios can be found on the About page at heroesjourneypodcast.com.
Better Off Dead is copyright 1985, CBS Inc. Thanks again for listening. Until next time,
journey on!
Do you have any idea of the street value of this podcast?
You'll make a fine little helper. What's your name?
Charles DeMar.
Shut up, geek.